I'll be getting to the good stuff soon, but first I think it's important for you to know a little bit about how this all started. I was born in 1981 in New Jersey and lived a pretty normal life, or so I thought. The Catholic religion was very important to my family, and from an early age, I adopted the mindset that the harder I was on myself, the holier I would be in the eyes of God. I became extremely guilty of my desires and punished myself mentally, in hopes that God wouldn't be so hard on me. Because of this, I was in confession every week, telling the priests about the terrible sinner I was, and they listened in agreement. I struggled to try to see the world through this lens of right and wrong that seemed to have little in common with the reality of things. With pride being the sin of the devil, I sought to be as humble and meek as possible so that one day I would inherit the earth and survive the 3 days of darkness. I have to pause, as I'm laughing so hard writing this right now, but at the time this was my reality, and to even question otherwise was blasphemy, punished by eternal damnation. You see, I was deathly afraid of going to hell and wore a scapula around my neck which was supposed to save me if I died while wearing it, being rescued by the Virgin Mary. To quote Stevie Wonder, "When you believe in things that you don't understand, then you suffer. Superstition ain't the way." Every day I lived in a self-imposed prison, never being good enough or worthy, with a constant need for self-improvement due to original sin. As if this all wasn't crazy enough, I felt superior to others who didn't obey the word of God and prayed that God would have mercy on them for not believing the insane madness I felt so virtuous about. Needless to say, as my personality began to take shape, trusting in Jesus who is the only way, I began to believe in myself less and less, thinking that was the right thing to do since one cannot serve two masters. Jesus would save me. Therefore, with self-confidence being identified as a sin, I suffered, all the while thinking my suffering was righteous and admired in the eyes of God. One day I would be rewarded, so I carried my cross, confused about rejoicing from my sorrow. I believe I'm quite open-minded and naturally think outside the box. Because of that, I thought I would have smelled this poisonous mentality from miles away. But when this thinking is instilled in you from birth and reinforced by everyone around you, especially those whom you love and trust, it's pretty much impossible to realize how damaging these beliefs are to one's mental and physical health thinking it is normal. Indeed, the blind were leading the blind, and I was rewarded for agreeing. Rewarded with acceptance into a group and the promise of blessings in the life hereafter, that could never be proved until death. And then it doesn't matter anymore either way because this life is over. To even question it means to risk losing everything you are and those you love. The crazy thing is, as much therapy as I've been through about this, there's no one to blame as everyone had the best intentions at heart. I know I'm not the first person to experience this upbringing, as this story has been handed down from generation to generation for thousands of years and everyone interprets it differently. To say I was Catholic is an understatement. I took it to the extreme, just like everything else in my life of importance. I went to daily Mass, prayed the entire rosary 3 times a day, said other prayers out of the Pietà book, venerated many saints, and went to weekly confession, stations of the cross, and holy days of obligation. I took it so far that when I became successful in my career and was thinking about proposing to my girlfriend, in the back of my mind I felt guilty for not becoming a priest and preaching to others like so often was encouraged of me. I decided that if I was really going to tell people about the good news of the Lord, I needed to understand the Bible. As fanatical as I was, much of it still didn't make sense to me and I had a lot of unanswered questions. I finally broke up with my girlfriend, for this and other reasons, and went to an overnight retreat at the local seminary. The people that I met there were even more brainwashed than me. I decided not to become a priest but began studying religion with great zeal. It didn't stop with Catholicism either, as I went on to study pretty much every other major world religion and philosophy. I thought it was pretty important for me to figure out this thing called religion, as I didn't want to miss the point of life. Why am I telling you all of this? Understand that in my mind, I lived in a constant state of fear. Fight or flight cortisol levels were high, as I was perpetually on edge. I felt suppressed and stressed, which I believe ultimately led me to getting sick. Granted, it took 24 years for all of this to manifest in my body, But when it did hit, it hit with the weight of a ton of bricks. Now, your own internal stress might not be religious in nature. Perhaps you have no idea what I'm talking about, which if you don't, that's a good thing. I'm not trying to sound like a fortune teller, but I'm willing to bet that if you're sick, something traumatic has happened in your life that has caused you great pain. It is something that, while in the background, is always present. Something that makes you feel anxious in your stomach, yet you're not sure why. There is nothing virtuous about this anxious fear. You see, there is much more to illness than just food and genetics. Your thoughts and feelings about yourself affect your life. Even in the face of man-made religion, no one, for any reason, is above natural law. If you harbor feelings of insecurity and fear, these things will manifest in ways we are only now just beginning to understand. Quantum physics has now proved the connection of energy fields emitted from the heart, and how the direction of our thought interacts with the very fabric of life, which creates our reality. Because of this, I've come to realize that my mental state, combined with my unhealthy lifestyle habits, created my disease. It was of my own making and I didn't even know it. I strongly encourage you to reflect on my story and have the courage to confront whatever it is in your life that you might feel uneasy about. Perhaps it's linked to the physical ailment you're experiencing. I've heard that unforgiveness causes cancer. Holding on to negative feelings like this causes the body chemistry to get sick. I believe that guilt and shame can manifest as digestive disorders, which can result in a number of ways affecting the intestines. There are some dynamite physical actions recommended and explained in the pages ahead that will absolutely make you feel 1,000,000 times better than you do right now. The non-physical aspects of life are just as important, however, as the body, mind, and spirit are all connected. No matter your age, know that other people have gone through and fully recovered from debilitating illnesses when they know what to do. As there is no magic pill, healing will occur naturally when you adopt these new lifestyle habits and reconcile past mental trauma. That being said, it's time to get excited because help is on the way, and once you get the hang of all this, it's actually a lot of fun. You will be rewarded with a renewed zest for life and confidence in knowing yourself on a whole new level. This feeling will be unlike anything you've ever experienced before.